Hello, I'm Sandra Murray of the White Mountain Community Garden, located in the heart of Sholo, Arizona. Welcome to AZ Mountain Gardening. Well, spring has definitely arrived up here on the mountain, and us gardeners are getting real excited to get out digging in the dirt. This month, we've got a lot of great information. How to read a seed packet to get the greatest plants, let's plant a tree, and also carry on with harvesting our cold weather vegetables that have been out there all winter.
Hello, I'm Chris Coates. I'm a certified arborist, and we're going to plant a pear tree here out at the community garden today. The first thing, we've got the hole dug by the guys, and when you're planting any tree, there's something you want to notice about the hole. You want it no deeper than the soil at the top of the pot. And that's because if you dig your hole real deep, and then you put some fill in, the tree is going to sink over time. So you always put your plant in at soil level or slightly above. And also when you dig your hole, don't make it a real smooth surround. Go ahead and if it's a little, there's places and nicks and stuff in it, that's fine. It helps the roots to be able to get out and get into that surrounding soil. Okay, now I can see that my soil in the pot is level with my other soil. So I'll just throw in another couple handfuls and press it down well. What we say in the arborist trade is we like to plant them high and proud. Now, when we take this little guy out, there's a couple things. You can cut this planter out into 3 to 4 pieces, or you can just gently lay the little tree down, give him a pound or two, and another pound or two, and then just carefully cradle him, and he'll slide out. You want to try to keep your root ball as intact as possible. And you'll notice there are some little shoots coming up here. When I peel a little bit of this soil away, you can see this part right here. That's a graft. This is a grafted tree, meaning that it has a top part that has the plant we want, and a bottom part that has very strong roots for our soil and our area. So we don't want any of these bottom things coming up. So we will prune those off. And throughout the life of this plant, as it grows, anything that comes below this graft, we're going to take off. That's called a sucker, and if it's allowed to grow, it will take over the whole plant, and it will eventually kill the part that you want. Now we make sure that we can see some of the roots from the top of the root ball here, and that way we know we've got it as deep as we need it. Now we want to kind of look around. Some people will actually shave a 1/4 of an inch off all the way around. You don't have to do that. You can go ahead and just kind of rough it up a little bit with your fingers, kind of like you're roughing up your hair with the hair dryer, and that will help the roots get out. Now if you look and you see a root that's a very thick root that's circling, this little guy has not been in his pot too long, but sometimes you'll buy a plant and it will have been in the pot too long. you want to cut those circling roots because they will eventually kill the tree. Okay.
Do they suffocate the tree or something?
They strangle it. They strangle the rooting area, and you get all your fluids and your water and your nutrients from the roots. So yeah, eventually it's a slow process, but it does happen. Okay, we put our little guy in here. Make sure he's fairly straight. Sometimes you'll have a tree that's a little crooked, and you can work with the bottom of your hole to make him stand a little straighter. So, okay, he's good there. So we'll go ahead and start filling him in. And when I fill him in, I push the soil down fairly firmly. Now, you'll see a lot of people in the summer, they will flood the hole so that the plant gets well watered. And you can do that. This soil here is fairly damp, despite the lack of rain that we've had and snow. But so this will be fine. We'll water him well after we plant him. And you'll notice that his soil in the root ball is very wet because I've watered him well before we planted him. So we'll just go ahead and put this back in here. And you'll notice here that he's just a little bit above the surface of the ground. So that's good. That's what we want. Some people will actually step on the root ball to make it connect solidly to the ground. You don't really need to do that. Just press it firmly so that it gets in there. Now what we'll do a little later when we put the irrigation in is we'll build a little saucer for him here, and that will help hold the water while he's a new tree. Now the next thing with a new tree is you might be tempted to prune it. This little tree I have not pruned. I just bought him at the nursery and brought him out. I'm not going to prune him this year. He needs all his leaves to make roots, and we want him to make roots because the roots feed the rest of the tree. And he needs the leaves to make the food that give the roots that energy. So we're going to leave him as is and not prune him until the second year. Sometimes you even wait for the third year, but definitely you can prune by the second year. Now, being as this guy is a pear tree, they tend to have narrow crotches in their branches. So by putting these little spreaders in, we can train the tree to pull those branches further apart. And these are simple, just a piece of wood, cut to whatever length you want with a little V in the end. And you just kind of stick it right in there like so. Now as the tree grows, you can put bigger spreaders in if you like. You use these spreaders because you want good solid crotches that will make for a strong tree, especially in our winds. And so that's why we do that here. We can move this one down a little bit, spread him a little bit more, and it's just a way of training the tree.
Well, it's spring here in the White Mountains, and go into any store, you're going to see a lot of seeds. And like most gardeners, well, we love our seeds, don't we, Esther?
Oh, definitely.
So important when you pick out your seeds is to pay attention to the information that's actually on the seed packet, because that's going to make you a more successful gardener. And I don't know about you, Esther, but I've planted a lot of seeds without looking at the back of the packet, and sometimes it hasn't been too helpful, and certainly the success rate has been low.
Right, you've got to definitely look at the depth, the distance between the seeds. Look at that information on the back of the package. It's very important.
You're right. So, and even before that, before purchasing your seeds, you should think about, well, what do I feel like planting this year? Because again, the seed displays can be quite overwhelming and enticing to us gardeners who feel like we probably never have enough seeds. So I thought what we do is just have a look at some seed packets to see various companies and the information, how they set it up on the packet. So here we have one for squash, and we really love squash at the garden.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of squash.
That's right. So here we have what they call an early prolific straight neck, and it's a yellow squash. So the first thing on the packet is it will tell you the full name of the actual variety of the squash, and many of them will have its botanical name too, so you know which family it's in. It'll also let you know right here, is it an organic seed packet? And this one is marked very clearly. The other important thing to know about seeds is whether they're a warm season or a cold season, because if you're getting ready to plant, you need to know that. So this one, squash, we know is a warm season planting. And so right now, early spring, you wouldn't want to be putting that in the ground because it wouldn't be very successful. And it tells you right on the package when to put it in. So after last chance of spring frost. So we may be wondering, when is the spring frost? So I know in Sholo, because I looked it up, it's June 1st to June 11th is usually the last date of a spring frost. Keep in mind, this is not a guarantee, so pay attention to your own area.
So if there's a frost after the time you planted, you may want to cover up the seeds to make sure they don't freeze.
Yeah, that's an idea too. You can always check the ground temperature too.
Right.
The other cool thing about a seed packet, it'll tell you whether it's an heirloom seed. And a lot of times it gives a little bit of history. Like this one says it won an award in 1938. And it's very creamy and delicious. So what I kind of like this part in these seed packets is they give a bit of the history. And hey, it's been around since 1938. So I bet you it's pretty reliable.
Yeah, they really give a lot of information about the different vegetables.
The back of the seed packet too has a lot of excellent information. So I think that's what we should look at next, because when we get out in the garden, we should have an idea before we start putting them in the ground. So here in this, again, summer squash, it tells us we should plant it anywhere from 1/2 to 1 inch deep. And it's telling you to mound it up. So again, an important thing when you're planting, to plant it in a mound and not just in a row. It will also give you an idea when it's going to emerge. So 5 to 10 days. Sometimes we can be kind of impatient. You know, we'll put the seed in and we think in a couple days, whoa, it should be up. And in fact, up to 10 days. So we need to be patient. It will also tell you when to thin it out. And again, the information is very, very specific. So that's one example, one company on how they do their seed packets.
It also tells you on the back, on this particular squash, when to sow outside and when to plant it inside.
That's a good point. So this one, it says, don't even think about planting it inside unless you have a very short growing season. So again, you're right, Esther, that's a super important thing to know about it. Another seed pack we have here, we'll look at basil. Again, a different company, different plant. Basil, really popular in the garden. So this one, again, the information right on the front tells us 85 days till you can basically eat it. 85 days to maturity, so that's quite a long time. It also will tell us that you can plant it in a container.
They grow very well in a container.
You're right, yeah. An herb pot is really a nice thing
Yeah.
to have. This one too gives its full name. It's basil, and it's a Genovese basil. And also gives a photograph. On that other packet, it was a drawing. And you know, that just seems to vary from seed packet to seed packet. This seed packet is a little bit different on the back, but it has similar information. So we'll have a look at that. So this is interesting with this little map here.
Yeah.
You know, it's pretty tiny, but I think we can get an idea of where we're located there.
And it's got a map of the United States, and it indicates by different colors when you should plant, what time of year you should plant these seeds.
Yeah. So this one says anywhere from March to June in our area. Well, of course, we're not going to be putting basil in the ground in March, but if we look below that, it tells us that you need to start these seeds indoors. And that would be 6 to 8 weeks before your frost. That's why we have the calendar, so that you can count backwards. So if you know, if we're in Sholo, where our community garden is, and we're going to say June 1st, kind of an average time for our last frost, is count backwards. If you want to get it in the ground by June 1st, look at your calendar, count backwards, 6 to 8 weeks, and start your seeds inside. And again, it tells you a lot about how long it takes to germinate with the basil, 5 to 10 days, 1/4 of an inch deep. That's one of the things I know for myself.
Yeah.
I have to be really careful about, because if you plant it too deep, it's not going to come up. And another cool thing with this plant, it'll tell you it'll get 22 inches high. So when you're planting your garden,
that's a good idea.
yeah, it is kind of good to know that,
Yeah.
it wouldn't, you don't want it maybe to shade other crops that you would have planted with it,
Yeah.
or perhaps you would like the shade.
Yeah, a good idea to alternate maybe in tall plants and short plants.
Right. It's all in the planning of the garden. Another thing you'll see on this packet, like most seed packets, it'll tell you when it's good till. This one is till the end of this year, 2018. So, having said that though, we know the viability of seeds
Yeah.
can last a lot longer than what they tell us, depending on the conditions. This is a different company, and a little bit different setup. So artwork on the front of the packet, and again, its full name, and that it's an organic. And this is a different plant that I bought some seeds, edamame. I've never planted edamame, but I think it might be a fun thing to try.
Would they grow here in this?
Yeah, this particular type of edamame is to grow here.
Ah,
This is what I have read about, so we'll see.
to try it.
Yeah, it'll be kind of fun. It is fun in the garden to try different kinds of plants and see how they do. This one on the back is also set up a little bit different. Talks a little bit about the history of the plant and actually how to prepare them. So I think that's kind of a cool thing. It also tells us we can dry it. And this particular seed company also likes to talk about saving seeds.
Yeah, that's good.
It is great, because we have our seed saving garden
Right.
too. That's a big part of what we do. And again, it'll tell you, it'll cross with other soybeans, so we'd want to make sure we don't have any other soybeans in the vicinity. And then on the back of the pack, again, all the information about how deep and how long it takes to harvest. So anyways, it's kind of a cool package, different company. One other thing that I think was interesting on this package is if you want to have a look at your seeds. And this is some kale seeds. Again, the package tells you the type of kale, it's organic, and a good look at the seeds because they have a viewing window. And again, on this packet, same idea. It talks about when to put it in the ground based on the last frost.
And it gives you the description of what the plant's going to look like. long, slender leaves. So,
Yeah, that's a good point.
yeah,
Sometimes when plants are starting to come up, we might not be sure if that's a plant
yeah.
or one of our weed
That's true.
friends.
Sometimes you can't tell the difference between the seedlings and the weeds that are coming up. You have to let them get a little bigger before you can determine
That's
the
right.
difference.
Yeah. And we know this is a cool weather plant, but it does tell you on the back that you could do several pickings and several plantings while the weather is cool. So lots of different seed packets.
So Sandra, question for you.
Sure.
Some of these packages say heirloom. What exactly does heirloom mean?
Well, Esther, that's a great question. An heirloom seed is a seed that's been around for generations, at least 3 generations that it's been growing from the seed, and then the plant grows, plant's harvested, and of course some of it is kept back for seeds.
So it's proven as a good seed.
It is a good seed, it's a good plant because it's stood the test of time.
Right. Esther Grantham, I've been here for 4 years and been with the garden for 4 years. I'm a city girl, so didn't know anything about gardening till I came, but working with these people here, you learn a lot. So now I'm in charge of the green section. And this winter, we decided to try to cover them up and see if they would last through the winter time. And they've done great. When it was cold, even it snowed on them, the ground temperature didn't get below 40. They didn't grow at that time too much, but they stayed alive. They kept going. And now that it's getting warmer, they've just gone crazy. So we got mustard greens, chard, we got spinach, and everything's looking great.
Hi, I'm Mary Alice Verts. I'm the president of the White Mountain Community Garden, and it's April 28th, 2018, and we're having our first Saturday sale. The sale is open to the public to help raise money to help defray expenses for the garden. And we've got handmade soaps that we're selling. We've got homemade fudge and blueberry cupcakes and banana bread, a lot of different bake sale items. We have our new bags, heavy duty bags to carry your groceries and your fresh vegetables in. We have heirloom tomato plants over here and other types of plants for sale. If you want to buy some for the garden. Now we'll probably be having the plants for another month, and then whatever we don't sell, of course, is going to add to what we already have planted in our garden. And then we got a bunch of other stuff that members of the garden have donated to sell, just odds and ends of things. And it really helps for us to be able to buy the amendments that we need to enhance the soil and to just cover a lot of expenses that come up that we're not even expecting. And on Saturdays, we invite people to come and tour the garden. We have a children's garden that is open for the kids to come on Saturdays to enjoy. We'll have Linda Hoy here. She's in charge of the children's garden, and she'll take the kids through and help them understand and learn about gardening. And insofar as sharing the produce that comes out of the garden, that's for the members. We invite anybody who's interested in gardening to pick up one of our brochures and learn about the various programs that we have.
That was some great information this month to get us gardening up here in the White Mountains. Please join us May 12th, it's a Saturday at 9 a.m. here at the garden. We have our Spring Fling open house and we'd love to see you out here. You can find out a lot about gardening and meet some of the gardeners and learn about becoming a member. Please check out our Facebook page and our website for further information. Please join us next time on AZ Mountain Gardening, where we continue to grow and learn here in the White Mountains of Arizona.